Mark Selby, how are we, sir?
Excellent. Good to see you once again. I'm here in the northern office.
The northern office. You're up at the, what do you call it, cottage? Is that what you call them up there?
Cottage, yes.
Cottage.
Yeah, in this part of Canada, it's a cottage. Out west, it's a camp. Northern Ontario, it's a cabin. So,
okay, we have the etiquette down now. That's good news.
Yep.
So, but what's happening in the world of nickel?
Yeah, after several exciting weeks, you end up, as normally, after several exciting weeks with a kind of a sideways week. Nickel actually came off 1% or 2%, down around $7.15 a pound, which made sense to consolidate after that sort of crazy run up that we've had since starting at the end of the Chinese holiday week. And again, fundamentally, what's sort of driving that is twofold. There's nothing really happening in the global momentum frame of mind. I think a lot of people are nervous about U.S. dollar strength, which is always bad for commodities. So it caused some people to sort of hang back a little bit. And then again, that triangle that we keep talking about in terms of Philippine ore supply, NPI from Indonesian stainless steel. All of those are have been basically trading sideways at a point where no one's making much money and no one's losing any money. So no one's in any rush to increase production of stainless steel any further, and you're not seeing any real production cutbacks throughout the chain. So it's been a relatively quiet week. And again, I think the numbers that everyone's going to be focusing in on is are we going to start to see Philippine ore inventories in China start to drop off over the next 3 or 4 weeks, which will let us know whether people did have more inventory tucked away than they sort of let on, or just how tight the supply chain is there. So it's a stay tuned and watch the ore inventory number.
Righty ho. Well, we couldn't help but notice the Vale numbers. They slightly disappointed.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, again, they had some scheduled shutdown and some not so scheduled shutdown. Again, I think one of the things Indonesia, very deservedly so, is the focus of a lot of attention in terms of the supply that's coming on. But I think one of the things that people don't pay enough attention to is what's happening from all of the existing supply. And again, we're coming out of a period of relatively low nickel prices. And again, nickel is now a subdivision of many of the larger companies. So it's not a priority for a lot of groups. So if you look at the production numbers in sort of 9 months, you see some pretty ugly quarter-over-quarter numbers. And again, some down 5% year over year in Canada, 10% in some operations. And so again, the ability to actually get a lot more supply from these areas is going to be really challenging going forward. And supply over time from that group has continued to decline, over the last 5 or 10 years. If you look at those numbers versus 10 years ago, you'll see some pretty stark differences in a bunch of, the old Inco operations, that Vale had.
But don't worry, Mark, our problems are solved because Goro has a buyer.
Yes. If the sun looked a little brighter yesterday as you walked down the street, it was because Goro has a buyer. So Trafigura, there's a story on the street that Trafigura was in talks to do it, and so it looks like basically Trafigura is backing a management buyout. I'm not sure if you're not. I haven't seen the pricing terms, whether they're actually paying anything for it. So I think it may be more of an assumer than a buyer. So it's the current VNC, which is the New Caledonia Vale board, backed by Trafigura. Trafigura is going to end up with 25% with all of the marketing rights to it. I think what's actually interesting there, Trafigura backed Terra Firma, which was the Finnish nickel producer. That's been a tremendous turnaround story that took an asset that not only did it not perform properly, but was causing environmental damage in its area. And so the team that took over that asset in Finland did a great job, not only sort of stopping the damage, but turning it into a profitable operation. So I'm pretty sure Trafigura will be tapping into some of their technical expertise, to see what can be done with Goro. the key, the most of the rest of the ownership is going to be local. So we'll see how that goes in terms of helping to smooth over some of the local domestic issues. But again, as a highlight, New Caledonia is a complicated place. There's also a story that the Northern Province wasn't as happy because their buyer, they partnered with another group, wasn't being considered. So they were striking and protesting outside the plant, and threatening to shut down the mines and the rest of the country. So, we'll see what happens. I don't know how much capital Trafigura actually has at risk here, but I'm sure more details will emerge in the coming week.
So do you think that is actually a good deal, or do you think that Trafigura has bitten off more than it can chew? Because I appreciate a lot of money has been lost on Goro, but a lot of money has been also spent, and you can be the beneficiary of that. I mean, we spoke with the ex-Rubicon group who saw that model work for them, because they've had the beneficiary of $690 million worth of infrastructure spent on that and all the historic data. So that's working for them. Can it work here?
Yeah, no, I think, there's an old adage, that the second and third buyer of a mine is always the one who makes the most money off it, and there are a number of teams that do a very good job of doing that. A great example, was Murrin in Western Australia. That was an HPAL asset that, basically went bankrupt twice. Glencore, paid about that much for it, and then brought the right technical team in, and, basically turned that asset around. Again, it's never been a huge money maker, but, in terms of when you only invest a little bit of capital, your return on investing capital, is a great number. And again, that's a number we don't pay enough attention to in the mining industry. And so, it's those types of investments that allow you to create those kind of home run returns on invested capital. Trafigura is in good position. They backed the Terra Firma team that did a great job turning around that asset in Finland. And I think, if anyone's in a position to turn that asset around, it'll be that team with some support there. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to manage to do it. The tough part is, New Caledonia is a very challenging, jurisdiction. You see, Glencore hit a home run out of the park, with picking Murrin up and operating it, and they're operating in the north half of the island with a local partner, and Koniambo's not been a raging success, by any metric. At this point in time. So we'll see, as long as, and I'm sure Trafigura is structured that they're not putting too much capital in up front.
We shall see, and it'll also be interesting to sort of see, what their strategy is, what the plan is, and what the timing of that is. But I think you're in a lot of trouble, Mark, because Andy Holmes has spoken. He has spoken. Okay, article came out. Yep. And he said the electric vehicles have lost their buzz. It's all over.
Yes, it is all over yet. We're going to become Canada Gold, because that's what it seems to be.
Did you see the article, first of all?
I did. Yeah, I did see the article. And Andy, I quite enjoy his columns. There's not enough insightful commodities writing, in my opinion, that get out to the broader media. So always keen to see, what he has to say. Again, I don't think it's tricky, that, there's no one saying, nickel demand this year is being driven by EVs. Anyone who sort of thinks that is sort of, off the page entirely. So, I don't think, this year's price movement is anything to do with EVs and the price buzz, which he does kind of highlight in the article. So I would hate to say, if we haven't even got going, then it's hard to say that something is over. The other part is he really focused in on the nickel study group. I think we talked last time about, again, if you want good information about all the specific data that's out there, that's a great source, and they are an excellent source of historical data. The INSG as an organization is just a horrible forecaster of what's to come. I have been in a number of those meetings over time, and again, you have a consensus of consumers. You have consumers and producers in the room, and so it ends up being a consensus of the room. And typically, they're looking at data, that's a few months old and tends to be more European focused than Chinese focused. So, historically, it reflects what the market was 2 to 3 months earlier before that forecast came out. So, again, that was prior to the massive move in Chinese stainless production growth. Again, we're seeing 25 to 30% growth in stainless steel and nickel bearing stainless steel in China. We're seeing 28% growth year over year in nickel sulfate in China for batteries. With that kind of forecasting view always misses the turning points. And so, again, I just think, those surpluses aren't going to be quite as large, as people, as a lot of forecasters are expecting. Because again, I think that was the consensus coming out of LME week last week, for sort of a similar range of surpluses.
Okay, I'll tell him he said that, because I'm speaking to him in about 2 hours.
Yes, exactly.
Just to let you know. You're just about to go into a 3-day conference. I mean, are people lining up to speak to you? Are they interested in nickel?
Oh, yeah. No, again, what a difference several years make. So, again, in my past life with a nickel project, I would perhaps have, 10 to 12 meetings, in a multi-day investor conference. In the next 3 days, I have 29. So, which is a pretty good set of meetings. So, the investor interest is on nickel has flipped 100 degrees. And again, 4 years ago, I would spend probably 70% of my time in those meetings just trying to convince people on the nickel market that there was a long-term future for it. Today I don't really have to spend any time on the nickel slides in my deck. People are like, oh, it's one of my favorite metals. Let's talk about the project. So it'll be a good several days, and it's nice to have that much interest.
Fantastic. What is this nickel that you talk about? Yes, none of that anymore. We're seeing the same sorts of message coming back from other nickel markets in the company. When you sort of read what's going on, people are really having a good hard look at them. And we've been talking over the past few weeks about what people should be looking for, but it seems to be messaging seems to be coming back from us as, all boats will float. We need all this, and all the above is great. It's just a question of the order of play.
Yeah, no, and that's where I think in coming back to Andy's Holmes article is it is still very much a stainless steel move, and this move up to over $7 a pound. Again, when you get through milestone prices, that does spur investor interest in a metal, and so getting back up over $7 has caused even more interest recently. But to his point, I think was really driven by, ore supply issues out of the Philippines, which we talked about at length, and stainless steel out of China. So again, I don't think that theme though is going to change that dramatically, that we're going to see any kind of, serious reversal in metal prices, between now and next March, April.
Okay, Mark, I know you've got places to be because you've got 3 days of 29 meetings to do. So thank you. Nice, quick, succinct update. Another great week, I think, for the world of nickel. People are paying attention. We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week, sir. Take care.